Hybrid warfare, who's lying to us and how? For a while, I've been pondering a question that concerns many, yet is discussed in such vague terms that, after any conversation, the topic remains unresolved. We sit, talk, share opinions, and then leave with nothing really changed. If we reduce the question to its most basic level, it boils down to this: where is the truth, and where is the lie in the messages from countless online sources? Where is the line that non-experts should not cross? How much trust should we place in such sources? It's no secret that Telegram channels, often chosen based on the number of subscribers or the prominence of the person behind the channel, are usually just part of a larger information machine. When you subscribe to one, you're offered a whole set of related products in the form of similar channels. This creates entire networks of information. These networks have the power to spread almost any kind of information, simply by citing other channels. Rarely do readers seek out the original source. At best, they might follow a link, get another invitation, and then give up. This is exactly what's needed to plant the desired information in people's minds. I often encounter people who rely on this kind of information biased and confined within strict boundaries. Try convincing someone like that to think differently. Anything that doesn't fit within their framework is simply dismissed. You end up being labeled either a liberal, a Putinist, or just an idiot who doesn't understand the topic being discussed. And once again, the issue of truth and lies comes up. Those who think like you are always on the side of truth, while those with their own opinion are liars. Unintentional liars. There's a particular group of people who lie simply because they need to attract as many people to their channel as possible. They earn money this way. So, they scavenge the internet for hot news and facts. The more scandalous the news, the more readers, the more views, and, consequently, the more money. They don't really care about what they publish. The main thing is the number of subscribers and sponsors. And the internet is set up in such a way that by tomorrow, no one will care about what interested them today. Almost no one is held accountable for what they publish. Why do I call them unintentional liars? Simply because such channels survive on the speed of information dissemination. Often, it's impossible to verify in official sources what is published on other channels. Official channels are as slow-moving as mammoths in a cave. They compete with turtles in terms of the speed of their messages. Yet these channels are wildly popular with readers. They have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. That means hundreds of thousands, even millions of people, are receiving inaccurate information. Masked channels. Far more dangerous are the sources that operate according to a scheme invented long ago by the Nazis. Part of the information is true, while another part is blatant lies or fabrications from the enemy. These sources are difficult to identify, mainly because, as I mentioned earlier, readers follow multiple channels, and some messages from those channels are also posted here. However, they can be recognized by those who know how to gather, analyze, and compare information with what they've read or seen. To accurately identify the enemy's objective, such as an attack on the Kursk region, one can look at a channel and determine if it is serving that exact goal. What is the purpose of this offensive, and indeed the war, for Kyiv and its backers? To defeat Russia? They're not fools, they know it's impossible, and they've said as much hundreds of times. The aim is to stir public discontent and create internal destabilization in the country, triggering the same scenario that played out in 1991. Now, let's examine a masked channel. Residents are being evacuated en masse from the Kursk region. People are leaving everything behind to flee an area that may soon be captured by Ukrainian forces. On the surface, it seems honest enough. Is an evacuation happening? Yes. Are people taking only the essentials? Exactly. Could enemy sabotage units appear in the villages left behind by residents? They could. But now consider how people in other villages, just a few dozen kilometers further from the border, might feel. Will there be panic? Yes. Maybe not among everyone, but there will be. People are terrified of losing their settled, orderly lives. And then another channel reports, about 200,000 residents of the Kursk region have already been evacuated. True? Yes, it's true. And now? The goal has been partially achieved. Faith in the army's ability to protect is undermined. Fear of the Ukrainian forces has taken hold. And the actions of enemy sabotage units are perceived by some as a full-scale offensive by Ukrainian forces. Now, no matter how much the governor, military, deputies, or experts explain that the evacuation is being conducted to protect civilians who are traditionally used by Ukrainian forces as human shields, people will still have doubts, and there will be panic. Then the third channel starts working as so-called truth teller from the front lines. Tell people the truth. The Russian people aren't fools, they see everything. Moscow is deliberately hiding the truth, but... Here follows a link to yet another. Vasya Pupkin, supposedly working directly from the front, says things aren't as rosy as they're portrayed on TV. Incidentally, this Vasya Pupkin often exists in reality, but he may not even know his name is being used. Do you think this is too complicated a scheme? Not at all. We're up against well-trained professionals who know psychology and the techniques of manipulating people. And the number of such specialists is in the hundreds, if not thousands. Technically, each of these professionals could run dozens of channels on various platforms. Opposition to the truth. Higher-level professionals work directly against channels and publications that report the truth. This could be an internet channel, media outlet, or a personal blog. Of course, a channel or publication with a small subscriber base won't interest such specialists, not enough scale. Naturally, creating a whole network of opponents would be costly. So, for this kind of work, a dozen people with a couple of dozen accounts can register as a crowd in the publication or channel that interests them. For a publication with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, a few dozen or even a few hundred such users should go unnoticed. However, for those who work directly with readers, reviewing comments, or reading letters, this isn't a problem. I spoke with the editor of a serious publication who could easily name the handles of people working for Kyiv. In their work, these specialists often use radically minded readers. Those who are professionally connected to computer work are the best candidates. They're almost always online, and it's relatively easy to steer them into a discussion in the desired direction. The work begins on several fronts. The first, if the material is genuinely dangerous for their masters, is to organize discussions on topics entirely unrelated to the article or blog. This needs to be done quickly, at the beginning of the discussion. Most people read the first comments and start arguing there. It's important to immediately hook the radicals. The author says everything is good, or bad, but how do you reconcile this with name of a specific village or town, where things are going badly, or well, for our side? This way, the material, which addresses the operational situation, is reduced to tactical successes or failures of a company or even a platoon in a specific area. Simultaneously, the topic of the author's personality is raised. The main argument here is, and why isn't the author in the trenches? However, this doesn't fly in serious publications and electronic media, it's more commonly used in internet channels and blogs. No matter how much mud is slung at Skabiva or Solovyov, forgive me, Olga and Vladimir, this filth doesn't stick to them. The third method, used alongside the first two, involves those who don't want or are unable to analyze independently and who perceive materials as mere news. Here, it's simple. Take the first statement, remove the middle section where the logical explanation is given, and present the conclusion directly. Then comes the question of all questions, where did the author get this from? This works particularly well with analytical pieces. One could write at length about hybrid warfare. Everyone knows the West is waging it against us, but few understand how and in what directions. This is why readers are often surprised when a blogger or journalist is suddenly put on trial or declared a foreign agent. But they seem to be telling the truth, just sometimes overstepping a bit. Just thoughts. The Special Military Operation, SMO, continues. Ukraine is sinking further into darkness. Resources and reserves are catastrophically scarce. They exist, but only for a limited time. Winter is approaching, and no one is planning to rebuild the damaged infrastructure. The problem of Sovietness hasn't gone away. 3 decades of disregard for the Soviet legacy have led to a situation where there's simply nothing to repair the damage with today. There are no spare parts. It's no wonder Zelensky is asking former Soviet bloc countries to demothball old thermal power plants, TPPs, to take spare parts from them. Imagine what kind of spare parts those are after 30 years of such conservation. Today, it's imperative to force Moscow to negotiate, preferably on Kyiv's terms. But after the start of the offensive on the Kursk region, the possibility of negotiations has completely disappeared. President Putin stated this directly. So what's left? The hope for destabilization within Russia. There are no other options. No matter how much is written about Europe's desire to fight for Ukraine, there aren't many fools there either. They understand there's nothing to fight with, and no one to fight. Even the Americans are at a crossroads now. How will the elections go? Who will become president? How will the voters of the losing side react? Everything is shrouded in darkness. But we'll continue to fight hybrid warfare.